Across the wide grasslands of Mongolia, homes are scattered far apart from one another. No fences, no street signs, just open steppes stretching toward distant mountains. If a traveler is caught out there with nowhere to stay, there's rarely any real worry. They simply ride toward the nearest small, round, white tent on the horizon. This is a ger, sometimes called a yurt, and its door is almost never locked. There's no need to knock either. In fact, knocking is considered slightly rude. You simply step inside, careful never to step directly on the wooden threshold. Within minutes, you'll likely be offered warm milk tea and something simple to eat. Nobody asked who you are first. Nobody demanded to know where you're headed. This is nomadic hospitality, and out here, it isn't just politeness, it's survival. So here's the real question. Why would total strangers be welcomed in so completely? The answer has everything to do with the land itself and what it takes to live on it. Mongolia's climate is genuinely extreme, swinging from blistering summers to brutal winters. Herding families move their homes several times a year, following grazing land and water. Out on that open steppe, help might be needed at any hour, in any weather. A closed door in that kind of landscape could very easily cost someone their life. So an open one became something close to an unwritten law of the land. Every ger follows roughly the same internal layout, understood without being explained. The door always faces south, positioned to catch the most light and warmth. Directly opposite the door sits the most honored spot in the entire home. That northern space usually holds the family altar, photographs, and treasured belongings. A stove sits at the very center, the true heart of the home, glowing and warm. Guests are shown, without needing to ask, exactly where it's polite to sit. Every part of this small round space carries its own quiet, understood meaning. The wooden threshold at the door is treated with particular, careful respect. Stepping directly on it is considered a bad omen, almost disrespectful to the home. Visitors quietly learn to step over it instead, without ever needing to be told twice. Tea is almost always the very first thing offered to any arriving guest. It's usually a warm, milky tea, sometimes salted, served in a simple bowl. Small snacks often follow, dried curds, bread, or whatever the family has on hand. None of it needs to be fancy. What matters is that it's offered without hesitation.
A herding family might have very little to spare, especially deep in a hard winter.
They offer what they have anyway, because that's simply how hospitality works out here. There's an old, practical logic underneath all of this generosity. Today, it's a stranger who needs shelter. Tomorrow, it might just as easily be you. A landscape this vast and unpredictable runs on that quiet, mutual understanding. Even building a new ger reflects this same spirit of shared, cooperative effort. Assembling one is traditionally a communal task, family and neighbors working together. It's considered genuinely bad luck to argue or quarrel while a ger is being built. The structure itself is meant to begin its life wrapped in harmony, not tension. A skilled group can raise the wooden lattice frame in just an hour or two. Just as quickly, the whole home can be taken apart and loaded for the next move. That portability isn't a limitation. It's the entire design philosophy of the ger. A home built to travel as easily and readily as the people living inside it. Guests are expected to follow a few simple, respectful customs of their own. Accept food and drink with the right hand or with both hands together. Avoid pointing your feet toward the family altar and never lean on the central support poles. None of these customs feel like strict rules once you understand the spirit behind them. They're small, quiet ways of honoring a family's home exactly as it deserves.
A traditional greeting comes first. Sein beina u, meaning roughly are you at peace?
Elders and honored visitors are sometimes greeted with a kadag, a long ceremonial silk scarf. It's folded lengthwise, offered with both hands, the open end facing the person receiving it. Blue kadags are the most common, echoing the vast open sky the steppe sits beneath. Before the first sip of tea or erig, a few drops are flicked toward the sky. It's a quiet offering to the sky, the earth, and the four directions all at once. Arag, fermented mare's milk, is treated as one of the most sacred drinks on the steppe. It's churned for hours in a large leather sack, hung and stirred by whoever passes it. A guest handed a bowl is expected to drink more than half before it's topped back up. The technique behind it earned recognition on a global list of protected cultural heritage. Men often greet one another with a small carved snuff bottle instead of a handshake. It's offered with the right hand while the left hand steadies the offering elbow. Even a stranger passing through is handed the bottle, sniffed politely, then handed straight back. Inside the chair, where a guest sits, is never left to chance or guesswork. Elders and honored guests are seated deeper inside, closer to that quiet northern altar space. Younger visitors take the spots nearer the door without ever needing to be told where.
It's a whole social order, quietly readable, folded into one small circular room.
Centuries ago, that same instinct for welcome was written directly into how the wider land worked. Under Mongol rule, merchants and messengers carried small metal tokens guaranteeing safe passage. A chain of relay stations let riders swap horses and rest safely across enormous distances.
A trader could cross the entire breadth of the steppe largely unbothered, token in hand.
Welcome, in other words, was never left to individual choice alone. It was built into the system. That deep history still echoes quietly in a single open gerdur today. Felt for the walls is made by hand. Wool from the family's own herd pressed flat. Rolling and pressing the wool is often a shared task, neighbors pitching in together. Layered thick, that felt keeps a small, round room warm through brutal winter cold outside. A guest is rarely, if ever, asked how long they intend to stay. Children learn the greeting phrase and the right-hand custom long before they can explain either. The number of lattice wall sections quietly signals the size and status of a household. Even families who now travel by truck instead of camel keep every one of these customs. Distant relatives, too, are known to arrive completely unannounced and be welcomed just the same. Even in Jer districts on the edge of the capital, that same open-door habit holds firm. A kettle left empty while a guest sits nearby is considered a quiet failure of the home. Nobody checks a clock during a visit. Rushing a guest out the door is simply not done. Even a traveler's tired horse is watered, fed, and looked after alongside its rider. None of this generosity is treated as a burden or a favor owed back later. It's simply understood as the quiet cost and the quiet reward of living out here together. In today's Mongolia, a large share of the population still lives in gurs. It includes many families in the capital city, not only out on the open steppe. The tradition adapted to modern life without ever losing its underlying core spirit. Whether in a city or deep in the countryside, the same welcome tends to hold true. Some Mongolian herding families now open their gurs to curious travelers on purpose. It offers a small window into a way of life that predates cities entirely. Visitors often describe the experience the same way, again and again, humbling. Being welcomed so completely by people who owe you absolutely nothing leaves a real mark. So step back and consider what this small round tent is actually protecting. Not comfort, exactly, and certainly not luxury, something closer to trust itself. In many places, doors exist mainly to keep strangers safely on the other side of them. On the Mongolian steppe, the door exists to bring strangers safely inside instead. That single difference reshapes an entire culture's relationship with the unknown. A stranger isn't automatically treated as a risk to be managed carefully. They're treated, first and most simply, as someone who might just need a bowl of tea. There's something worth carrying from that, even far from any open grassland.
Most of us will never live somewhere as genuinely unforgiving as the Mongolian steppe.
But most of us do occasionally meet a stranger who quietly needs a little help. The nomadic instinct doesn't ask what that person can offer you in return. It simply asks whether they need a door opened and answers with a clear yes. You don't need a felt tent or an open steppe to borrow that small idea, just a genuine willingness to welcome someone in without keeping careful score. A Mongolian ger doesn't ask a stranger for references or a good reason for showing up. It simply offers tea first and lets the conversation and the trust follow naturally after. Out on that vast grassland, hospitality was never treated as optional or extra. It was treated as the quiet, sturdy thread holding an entire way of life together. A closed door out there was never really survivable for very long. An open one, it turns out, built something that has survived for centuries. Somewhere on the Mongolian steppe tonight, a small white tent glows warmly in the dark.
Its door sits unlocked, exactly as it always has, ready for whoever might arrive.
Not because the family inside is expecting anyone in particular tonight, but because out here, being ready to welcome someone is simply how a home is built.
A gear holds no locks, no cameras, no list of who is and isn't allowed inside.
Just a warm stove, a full kettle, and a family willing to make a little more room. That's really all an open door ever needed to be out on that wide, quiet steppe.